If you've ever wanted to create a typewriter effect directly inside of After Effects, then you're in the right spot. I'm about to teach you exactly how to do it, and it is super, super easy. There is 0 plugins required. So without further ado, let's jump into After Effects. Okay, so we're inside After Effects, and I pretty much have the basic layout selected. However, it's super important that you have both the character and the paragraph panel ready and available for you to use. If you can't see them anywhere, chances are they'll be hidden down here, but if not, just go up to the window button and make sure you have them both selected here. So we've got character and paragraph. We know they're selected as they have the tick mark next to them. So step 1, we need to add our text to the composition. You can either head up to the text icon here, or using my handy custom plugin called Quick Draw, I could just press the text button. It'll instantly add some text to the dead center of the frame. If you're doing it manually, just click up to the top and add your text into the middle. And let's just type an example sentence. Double click and just type whatever you want. Go ahead and align your text to the center of the frame. Okay, so there are actually 2 typewriter effects that come pre-installed with After Effects. Now, I think most people don't realize this, and I will show you both of them just so you can compare, but most people use the basic one, which is just called Typewriter. I'll show this to you quickly now, but this is not the one that you want to use because it has very limited customizational points. So with your layer selected, head over to the Effects and Presets panel, and we can just search for the effect called Typewriter. Now we can see there's one just called Typewriter, and we can drop and drag that onto our clip. Now this is the more basic version. So if I just press spacebar, there we go. We have a typewriter effect. This does what it says on the tin. I can't complain. It brings it in letter by letter on the left, and it looks great. But we can definitely take this a step further. If you want to use this more basic version, really the only customization you can do is heading over to the drop-down menu over here, and we can select the text, we can select the animator, and we can select the range selector. And when these keyframes have popped up as triangles, it means we can click and move their position. And by dragging them further apart, the animation will be slower. So that's a 10-second typing animation, super, super slow. Or, you guessed it, we bring them closer together, the animation is going to be faster. Not bad, not mind-blowing. We can definitely do better than that. So I'm just going to delete this effect off of the text by selecting the animator and hitting backspace or delete. And instead, the effect that we want to be using is called Blinking Cursor Typewriter Console. We're going to really hit all the keywords with that one, but this is basically the typewriter effect on steroids. So by dragging that onto our text layer, we are going to be able to have the same effect, but we have much more customizationable options. So if I just hit spacebar, we can see the main difference right now is that we have this blinking cursor line. As the text comes in, this cursor line follows it across, which I think is really, really cool. We can change this as much as we like. So first of all, just like the other one, if we head to Effects, Animation, we can change the duration of the animation just by moving these start and end points here. Drag them apart, it'll make it slower. Bring them closer together, it'll be faster. But we now have these other options up the top here. So we can turn the blinking cursor box on and off. So if we don't want it, we can get rid of it. We can see there. There we go. No blinking cursor. If we leave it on, we can change it from being a box to, it's got an underscore, a dash, different symbols, lots of different stuff. And these will be really cool if you're doing some sort of like matrix style code coming up on the screen. It really depends on the exact scenario that you're going to use this effect for, but it is really cool nevertheless. We can also change the frequency of it flashing, because we can see here that even after the effect has come in, it will still continue to flash that effect. And just by changing this value here, so if we up it from 4 to 10, it's going to flash way more frequently, or we can crank that back down to 1. We can see it's going to be super, super slow. So this is a really nice extra subtle touch that the blinking cursor typewriter console has that just the normal typewriter doesn't. And really there's no need to use the normal typewriter. You could do everything you want with this effect and much more. So a few key things to know about this effect is depending on your paragraph settings, so whether you have the text left aligned, center aligned, or right aligned, has a massive impact on how the effect looks. So right now, in the paragraph options, we have it left aligned, so we can see it comes in from the left. But if we swap that to be right aligned, and we will need to reposition it to be back in the frame, so we can just click on the text, move it over here. Then if I press spacebar, we can see that the blinking cursor actually stays stuck on the right, and the text moves in from the right hand side instead. And if we select on the center aligned one, move this back to the middle, we can see the text and the blinking cursor come in from the center outwards. So 3 really nice different options there. Just keep an eye on what paragraph settings you have selected, because it will have an impact on how your text loads in. Now, this has all been super simple so far, but how can we make this as professional looking as possible? Well, obviously right now we are just using a very boring font. This is just Arial. If you have After Effects, I'm going to assume you have access to Adobe Fonts. It's just a massive font library that Adobe has. Inside of Adobe Fonts are different typewriter fonts. So if we just center align that again and double click on our text, we can go up to our font selector and we could definitely find an inbuilt typewriter effect. So if we just search type, we can see here we've got American typewriter, and we could select the semi-bold and look at that. And that is looking fantastic. That is super cool. Let's speed that back up again there. By the way, if you have your text layer selected and you want to instantly see where the beginning and the end animation points are for your effect, you can just press U on your keyboard and it will bring up any sort of keyframing that's been done to that layer. So we can see here, this is where the animation starts and ends. We can bring them closer together and it should speed that up. Very cool. If you don't have access to Adobe Fonts, that is not a problem at all. There are loads of websites online which have big libraries of free fonts. Font.com is a favorite of mine. You could just go on there and they've even got, I can see right now, they've even got a typewriter category, and there's just absolutely endless amounts of fonts that you can download. And you can even type a preview in here and say, you can type any word you want, you can hit submit and it will give you a preview of what that font will look like. So these has loads and they are all available to download for free. Okay, so we've got the text, we've got the animation, we've got the font. Okay, so there are 2 more things left I want to show you that can definitely take your typewriting animations to the next level. So first of all is if we want to have it look like it is a typewriter effect on a piece of paper. So really the main thing we're missing here is a paper sort of background. Now there is a fantastic website called texturelabs.org and it is a massive free library of really high quality textures. You can go to the paper section and then we can scroll along here and we can find any sort of paper background that we want. So for example, I can select this newspaper. You can choose what size that you want to download the picture to be. We'll just pick medium for this example and it's all completely free. With our new paper background downloaded, let's bring that background photo into our timeline by dropping and dragging. We can make sure it is on a lower layer than the text. We can scale it up. Let's change that text to be black. So just select the text layer, change the color up here to be black. How can we do a typewriter effect for a paragraph instead of just one line? Well, if we scrub our playhead to the end of the animation, we can add an additional line. So just having the text effect selected, click on the text, move to the end. We can hit enter on our keyboard and we can write a new line. If you want there to be less of a gap between them, just highlight the whole thing. Then using the character effects, we can make this number smaller and that will reduce the distance. So there we go. So now we've got 2 lines coming in. If you want it to stop at the end of one line, we can find the point where the first line is complete and then we can add a keyframe in at that exact point. And now what we can do is we can duplicate that keyframe. So by pressing Command C, moving along a bit and then pressing Command V, it's going to hold the animation at that exact point between these 2 keyframes. So we can have a bit of a pause before it plays to the next line. So we've got one line coming in and then I can highlight these 2, move them further that way. So we've got one line coming in, stops, and then another line coming in. And by separating these keyframes, we can make the whole animation slower. So this is where the first line comes in. It'll stop at that line, then it'll do another one. Cool. And now the final piece of the puzzle is keeping that text center aligned. So with our rulers visible, if you can't see these rulers around the edge of the composition, just go to View and Show Rulers. And with the rulers visible, hover your mouse at the top, and when it becomes a double-edged arrow, we can click on it and drag a temporary blue line into the center of the frame. And this is just going to serve as a guide so we know exactly where the center of the frame is. And now we can select both the text layer and hold Shift and select the background layer. And we're going to connect these to a null. A null is essentially a transparent layer that you can stick other layers to, and then you can control just the null and it will control everything that's stuck to it. Instead of having to animate both the background and the text separately, we can stick both of those to an invisible null layer and then just animate the null. And that way it's just it's the same effect. It's a lot less work, and a lot faster. So with both of these selected, with my plugin, I could just click the null button and it will have them already attached to it. If you don't have that installed, I'll show you how to do it separately. We can just right click here, new null object. It'll create a null object, and then you just need to make sure that you have both of these selected. So holding shift and select the other one, and then use this lasso tool that's on the right hand side, not the left hand side one, the right hand side one, and then it will stick both of those layers to your null. We can see they're stuck to the null because they have the null's name at the end here. So now we can scroll along the timeline, and then when it gets to the end of this sentence, we can press P, and pressing P will show us the position values for the null. We can add a keyframe, so click the stopwatch, and we're gonna click the stopwatch, and now we will move along the timeline just a little bit before the next sentence animation comes in. We can add another keyframe just by changing the values. We will click and drag on this blue number and shift the whole thing up so that when the next sentence comes in, it should line up with that blue line. Okay, so I've gone a bit far there. So if I just bring this keyframe across so I get an idea of where it lines up to. So I'll just make sure that lines up with the center of the text. So now we have the first sentence come in. There we go. I'm going to shuffle these keyframes around to make it a little more natural. And if I highlight these keyframes, you can press F9 on your keyboard to add ease, or I can just press my instant easing button here. We can also toggle on motion blur for all of the different layers at once. So there we have it. So I hope that tutorial serves as a good inspiration for some different ideas of what you can do with the typewriter tool. To summarize, don't use the normal basic boring typewriter tool because you can do everything you want and more with the blinking cursor typewriter tool. You've got full creative control, do whatever you like. Make sure you select a cool typewriter font, either from Adobe Fonts, to font.com. If you are someone who is using After Effects a lot, you need to check out my plugin Quick Draw. It is the plugin that I wish existed when I started learning After Effects. It has so many super useful buttons, and Quick Draw is 100% something that you should check out. It'll be in the top link in the description. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any questions or ideas for what you want to see next, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.